If one's walking along Franklin Avenue near the intersection of Normandy, on the border of Los Feliz and Los Angeles, one may never even know that they're passing by one of the most creepily accursed houses in Hollywood horror film and true crime history. In 1938, to impress his father, Frank Lloyd Wright Jr. created this house for the artist John Soden. And it was then, several years later, that one of Hollywood's most notorious true crime serial killers moved in. So, we are here on Franklin Avenue at the site of the very famous Frank Lloyd Wright Jr. Mayan temple house. This is not the temple house that you saw in the House on the Haunted Hill or in episodes of Angel Buffy. This is actually the house in which George Hodo Jr., a well-renowned LAPD-connected surgeon, lived in the 40s. And it is here at this house that his son Steve, and many scholars believe, he killed the Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Short, before depositing her body January 15th, 1947. This is the famous house that is believed to be the location of where the Black Dahlia victim was murdered and cut up into pieces to then replicate that of the art of Man Ray. It was in this house that George Hodo Jr. hosted many a lavish party and drug-induced orgy, featuring none other than Fred Sexton, sculptor and artist who worked on John Huston's films and created the Maltese Falcon statue that you see in the Maltese Falcon. Again, this is the Frank Lloyd Jr. house in which many believe today George Hodo Jr. killed Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, before depositing her body on January 15th, 1947. Today, George Hodo Jr.'s own son, former LAPD detective Steve Hodo, believes it's from this rear entrance that his father drove off with Elizabeth Short's eviscerated, mutilated corpse in the back of his car and took off for downtown Los Angeles. It's here in this very house, in the basement, where Tamar Hodo, George Jr.'s own daughter, teenage daughter, ran away from in 1949 after claiming he had raped her under the inducement of cocktails and drugs. Tamar Hodo was eventually picked up. Her father, George Hodo Jr., was tried, but because of his connections to the LAPD in performing abortions and other VD-related surgeons, that George Hodo Jr. got off from what many believe today was actually the rape of his daughter. So again, this house is filled with many a sinister LA Noire murder mystery. I would never want to stay here. The Airbnb prices are through the roof to stay here.